Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Slamat. I'm one of the pulmonologists and sleep physician at Valley Hospital. So we will be talking about how to get a good night's sleep. Before I go into the real topic of the things we need to do to have a good night's sleep, I'm going to go over a little bit about what is sleep, what is a normal sleep, what should we know about how the brain falls asleep or helps you fall asleep. And once you have that understanding, it automatically would help you understand what things to do to get a good night's sleep and what not to do. Um, so what I will try to go over a few things is, what is actually sleep? Why do we sleep? What is normal sleep? How the brain, what the brain mechanism is to help us fall asleep and stay asleep, and what are the consequences of not sleeping. And in the end, we will go over what to do to get a good night's sleep. All right, so what is sleep is basically, it is a rapidly reversible, it's a state of reduced responsiveness, motor activity, and metabolism. Sort of the whole body kinds of take a break, if you will. Humans spend 1/3 of their lives, about 8 hours average, sleeping. It is imperative for our survival. We know this because there is a disease which is familial fetal insomnia, which is very, very rare disease. There are only few case reports in the world. If they, in that disease, the patients are not able to fall asleep, and within the 3 to 5 years, they actually die. And unfortunately, there is no cure for that disease. It's a genetic malformations. So it is important for brain development in children, starting from childhood. It is imperative for our physical, mental, and emotional well-being. It revitalizes your body and restores your energy. It is important for memory consolidation, for our executive functioning, processing of the information, and consolidation of the memories. It helps us build our immunity by mitigating the adverse effects of stress, daily stress that we deal with. Okay, so I'll overview some of the things which we see in normal sleep, starting from the brain activity. So you can see on the top, when we are awake, it's just a visual. You can see that you have brain waves which are fast and low frequency. And then we go into slow stage 1 sleep, which is the brain kind of slows down. Then you can see in the stage 2 slows down more. And in stage 3, which is the deep sleep, you can see the sleep waves are really slow and high amplitude, which is basically your brain is slowing down. Then we enter into the REM sleep, and that is an active sleep. We are dreaming in that sleep. So your frequency slightly increases. With these stages of sleep, everything in the body slows down. You're going to see your breathing slows down, your blood pressure goes down, your heart rate goes down. So your body is taking a rest. Sleep stages, we go through different stages of sleep throughout the night. It comes in cycles of 90 to 120 minutes. We start with stage 1, which is a light sleep. And then we enter into stage 2. We spend most of our night in stage 2, about 45 to 55%. And then enter into deep sleep, which is 20% of our sleep, and then REM sleep, which is average from 18 to 23%. If you can see, this is a hypnogram on the left. If somebody is getting an 8 hours of sleep, you're going to go through all these stages throughout the night. As the night progresses, the first half of the night is light sleep, second half you go into deep sleep, and then you go into dream sleep, and then the cycle goes on every 90 to 120 minutes, depending upon your bedtime and wake up time. Towards the early morning hours, you get more dream sleep, and you have longer cycles of dream sleep. So what is normal recommended sleep? That's a common question everybody asks. And a single person, an individual, there is a variation of what the amount of sleep you need. So there's individual variation, anywhere from 7 to 8 hours of sleep, but it is different with different age groups also. So you can see on the extreme left on the screen, you have a newborn to spend almost 14 to 17 hours of time sleeping. And infants do need 12 to 15 hours of sleep still. Toddlers, 1 to 2 years, you are going to still need anywhere from 10 to 13 hours of sleep. School age children, 9 to 11. And then teenagers, 8 to 10 hours of sleep. Unfortunately, you see that there has been a shift. The requirement for sleep doesn't change. It's just that in this day and age, we are seeing lots of people, about more than 60% of people are sleep deprived, including the kids, teenagers, high schoolers. So in adults, you average about 7 to 9 hours of sleep, but in above age 65, you still need 7 to 8 hours of sleep. The sleep requirement doesn't go down, but unfortunately, the quality of sleep is not there. So as we get older, our sleep gets, the quality of sleep is poor. You can see the bottom line, there is a stage 1, as you get older, stage 2 is more, which is light sleep. And slow wave sleep, which is deep sleep, it goes down. We have more awakenings during the night, and it takes longer to fall asleep. So we are talking about, as we get older, this is a normal shift in sleep. The REM sleep or dream sleep is almost the same throughout the lifespan. So
on Zoom are saying that they can't see these slides going. Well, they can't even see the slides moving. Hi, everybody. Okay. Let's see if we escape.
Should be on a slideshow. Is this on a slideshow?
Yes. No, that's okay. Black or unblack? Let's see. No, you know what? The slides just aren't moving. And that's
fixed on one slide.
Yeah, which is so strange. Okay, so I'm sorry, everyone. We are gonna fix this though, and we're gonna get right back. That's not it. Display. Okay, we're gonna end slideshow and go back in, okay? I'm so sorry. Okay, from current slide. There it is. I saw it get fixed. Like a pointer? No, let me see if she has one. All right, we should be good now.
All right. No worries. All right. So how do we sleep? The common misconception is that, your brain goes to sleep and nothing is happening. Actually, there is a sleep center and there's an awake center in your brain. The awake center has to be switched off. The sleep center has to be switched on. And as you can see, I'm not going to go into details and of all these neurotransmitters. It's a very fine controlled mechanism which involves multiple mechanisms, multiple neurotransmitters being released, multiple hormones, which control the sleep and the awake center. So what happens when we are sleeping? How does the brain know that this is time to sleep, this is time to wake up, and when to switch on the sleep center, when to switch off the awake center? So the brain gets information from your body and from your environment. There are lots of other stimuli and factors. I am just putting in the big ones. The sleep center gets information from your environment. The biggest stimulus or the information is light and noise. When you have no light falling into your eyes, whether it is natural light or artificial light, the brain thinks it's time to go to sleep. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, okay. So the light goes down, the noise goes down, you're not physically or mentally active, you're not eating, you're not drinking water, especially no stimulants. So those are the big ones, right? When you're awake, everything goes on the opposite direction. You're taking stimulants, you're eating, you're drinking, you're exercising, you're mentally active. And that's how the brain figures out that this has to switch on, this has to switch off. And at night, all these stimuli tell this center to switch on, and this goes to sleep. So besides the stimuli, there are certain hormones in the body which are secreted based on these activities that we are doing. So when we are awake, you have adrenaline and cortisol. There's a surge of these hormones early part of the morning, anywhere from 3 to 4 to 6 or 7, or even 9 or 10, depending upon your bedtime and wake up time. Your body secretes the melatonin, which is the which is the most important hormone, which controls your day-night, as well as what we call a circadian rhythm. And I'm going to go over that in a minute. Your body is basically secreting all the hormones that will make you sleep and repair and rest your body. You're going to have growth hormone, you're going to have adrenaline go down, cortisol go down. There are repair hormones, thyroid hormones. Leptin hormone makes you stop eating. So leptin is going to go up at night so that you don't feel hungry for 7-8 hours. There is another hormone, ADH. It goes up. The function of this hormone is to make you not need to go to the bathroom. So it concentrates your urine. So you do not need, there's a misconception, you need to keep hydrating. You do not need to keep hydrating your body after dinner. You don't need to drink extra water, extra caffeinated drinks, because your body is going to take care of it. Your body is getting ready to give you 7-8 hours of uninterrupted sleep. Repair the body, rest the body, not make you feel hungry, not make you feel thirsty. So all this is happening. Your stress hormones are going to go down, and everything flips when you wake up in the morning. So the most important mechanism which controls your day-night and how we sleep, what time we sleep, how the quality of our sleep is, a lot of it is based on the circadian rhythm. We all know about the melatonin, the most important hormone. We talked about it when it is secreted by a complicated pathway in the part of a brain, which is called pineal gland. The stimulant to secrete the melatonin is dark. So when it is dark outside, your body starts secreting, getting ready to sleep, and secrete melatonin. When you wake up in the morning, melatonin starts going down. What it does is it sets an internal clock. And this, if we draw that, you're going to see that this leads to a rhythm. Internal clock is regulated by all these hormones, including the melatonin. What that internal clock does is it gets all this information and it's going to process it over the 2, 3, 4 days, and going to see when you're going to wake up, when you're going to fall asleep. This is the graph which we draw based on how much melatonin, what time melatonin is secreted, and basically determines your bedtime and wake up time. And this is the graph which is sleep, how sleepy you are. So when you wake up in the morning, you're slowly, it's called a sleep debt sort of. There are chemicals in the brain. There are chemicals in the body which kind of accumulate mostly in the brain, and you start feeling tired. When you go to sleep, those neurotransmitters, those substances are cleared by your brain. The most important of them is adenosine. It is cleared and when you sleep at night. So you can think of brain as just like we have kidneys making urine, we have bowel movements. That's the clearance mechanism for the brain. Sleep is a clearance mechanism. So it clears up all these chemicals that will help you feel refreshed in the morning. So circadian clock basically is an internal clock, and it is not only in the brain, it regulates every function of your body. Every cell in the body has an internal clock. You feel hungry at a certain time, you feel thirsty at a certain time, you feel mentally alert at a certain time, and you feel sluggish at a certain time. And that is all dependent upon your 24-hour clock. That is what makes you feel sleepy at night, makes you feel awake during the night. And when your internal clock is not synchronized to your external clock, which you can see when you're traveling, the jet lag, then you feel sleepy at odd hours, you're alert at odd hours, you feel hungry at odd hours, and it takes few days to adjust. And this is the mechanism which is helping us do that. If your internal clock is synced to your outside clock, that's when you get the optimal sleep. Okay, so what happens when we do not sleep? Immediate effects, and then there are long-term effects. So immediate effects is people feel foggy, impaired concentration. They have problems concentrating. They feel hungry. It increases the risk of getting infections. It decreases your immunity. People are sensitive to sleep deprivation. Different individuals will have different symptoms. Some people, they get irritable, they get anxious, they get depressed also. And it also causes problems with focus and concentration leading up to accidents. So long-term effects, you can see every organ of the body is affected. Long-term effects. Any disease you can think of is over the years now being proven that it can cause, the sleep deprivation can cause any of those diseases. Heart disease, obviously we are very concerned. High blood pressure, diabetes, decreased immunity, more risk of infection, depression, anxiety, sexual problems, memory issues, poor balance, and all this has something to do with your coordination as well. So this slide just shows how there is research how severe it is going to, the sleep deprivation over the years can affect an individual risk of certain disease. So 48% increased risk of heart disease. You're more likely to get infections. You're more likely to develop diabetes, dementia risk, and people age faster. If you think it can make your brain age faster, 3 to 5 years. You crave for starch, for carbs, and it has to do with leptin and ghrelin hormones. So ghrelin hormone makes us eat, leptin makes us stop eating. So when people are not sleeping at night, your brain thinks you're under a lot of stress. How brain reacts to stress is it's going to get you ready for the stress by conserving energy. So people feel hungry all the time. They feel craving for carbs. And because the carb is the quick glucose and quick fight, flight response is kind of what kicks in. All right. So coming down to understanding and having this background, it is easier to understand what not to do and what to do. So if you have a regular bedtime, regular wake up time, it will entrain your circadian rhythm, which means if you do not have artificial light, if you do not have the things we are not supposed to be doing at night, which is a big problem now with the electronics. It is a huge problem. Lots of retired individuals as well as teenagers, they are at school-age children, they are sleep deprived, they're on these electronics, they cannot fall asleep, they're having insomnia. It does not only does it cause problems falling asleep, but interferes with your melatonin secretion. And this concept of blue light, this and that, it doesn't really work. It might not work because it's stimulating your brain too much. So if you have no melatonin secreted by your body, it does not help you fall asleep and stay asleep. The exogenous melatonin that people take, it does not help you stay asleep. Maybe it will help you fall asleep. Second, if you take it over-the-counter medication, the dose, you do not know what dose to take. Our body secretes melatonin less than a milligram, so it's in micrograms. Most of the over-the-counter stuff you're going to see is 5, 10, people take 15, 20 milligrams. That's way higher dose. Also, you do not know what these other contents are, it is mixed with. If you take it at the wrong time of the night, especially if you're a night person, then it can actually backfire. So it will change your internal clock. So it's very, and more recently over the pandemic, there have been case reports of overdose of melatonin the adults are taking, the children. So overdose of melatonin by children, there has been a higher incidence over the last 1 or 2 years. With the pandemic, lots of people had problems with sleep and they were using melatonin. So if you take naps, again, it's going to interfere um, with your circadian rhythm. What the brain tries to figure out is, by having a regular bedtime, wake up time for 2, 3, 4 days in a row, the brain figures out it is daytime, so I'm supposed to sleep. If you take a nap in the middle of the afternoon or early evening, the brain catches up, and then you do not want to, or your brain is not going to secrete melatonin or delay the melatonin. So you might not be able to fall asleep or stay asleep. Again, having problems with that. If you are staying in bed for hours and hours, there is something called conditioned arousal. The more we try to sleep, the more frustrated we get, the more anxious we get, the more we wake up. It's called a conditioned arousal. What you need to do is, if that to avoid that anxiety related to not sleeping and the frustration, is you leave the bed. If you cannot sleep in 5 to 10 minutes, you leave the bed, you go in the living room, deep breathing, meditation, come back so that you can relax. Obviously, not drinking caffeinated drinks close to bedtime, not having any stimulants, TV, electronics, electronic books, phone in the bed. Avoid all these things. They will stimulate your brain. People think they want to relax. The more complicated stuff that you're doing on these devices, the more you wake up. If you are trying to do word puzzles or playing games, that needs much higher involvement of your brain and mental activity. So it's going to wake you up more. If you're reading, again, light falling into your eyes. If you're reading something that you can't put down, it's going to not let you sleep. Watching TV, some people run TV all night to have a noise. It will have it will have a flickering light. Two, the noise is changing frequency. You do not want to have rapidly shifting or changing frequency of the noise, because it can startle your brain. At the subconscious level, it's almost like if somebody breaks into your house, you're going to startle and you're going to wake up. So sometimes if you have the TV running and changing frequency, it can have the same effect. So it's better to have a white noise machine. Caffeinated drinks, why after lunch? There's a common misconception that they drank caffeine at 4 or 5 o'clock. So caffeine has a half-life of 5 to 6 hours. So if you keep drinking caffeine, it has to take time to metabolize. It takes minimum 5 to 6 hours for it to be metabolized. If you start taking another cup of caffeine or coffee or tea, depending upon the content of the caffeine, you're again going to accumulate. And some people, I have heard patients say, I drink a cup of coffee and I can go to sleep. Yes, because you might be so sleep deprived, you might have some other sleep issues that you are sleep deprived and you're going to fall asleep, but it does not let you go into deep sleep. And it does cause awakening. Same problem with the alcohol. It is sedative, helps you fall asleep, but it gets metabolized and it sort of has a rebound effect, or your body craves for it, or the way the alcohol is metabolized, you have a rebound effect and you wake up. So the more alcohol content you have, the more it is going to have your sleep and cause awakening. So most patients would realize that 3 to 4 hours after they have been drinking, they will wake up. Some patients use it as a medicine to help them fall asleep, but then they keep waking up during the night. Also, caffeine and alcohol and water, all these things are going to make you wake up, go to the bathroom. Remember the ADH hormone? The ADH hormone is there. It has done its work. When you drink on top of it, the water is going to get rid of that extra fluid because it's already making the urine concentrated. So if you keep drinking on top of it, it will get rid of it, make you go to the bathroom at night, interrupt your sleep. THC, it's legal now in New Jersey. Lots of people are using it. There is a lot of research going on the effects of sleep. We do not know, there is no conclusive evidence right now that it does help you sleep. THC part will interrupt your sleep and it will give you poor quality of sleep. It does decrease your REM sleep also. So kind of same effect that alcohol has. The CBD part does not have the addiction part in it. Some people say they swear by it, they sleep better. Majority would sleep better because obviously it makes you drowsy. And if you have a component of anxiety that you cannot fall asleep, that's when the CBD will control anxiety and it might help you fall asleep. But there is nothing, so American Academy of Sleep Medicine right now is not recommending unless there is more conclusive evidence, more research and more data that we know for sure how it affects your sleep. Medications, again, this is a big problem as we are getting older. We are on more and more medications. Some of the medications can interfere with your sleep. Some of the blood pressure medications, some of the cholesterol medications. If you take inhalers too close to the bedtime, they're stimulating. They will increase. It will have problems with not only falling asleep but also staying asleep. Makes you jittery, makes you anxious. So some of the inhalers, you want to avoid taking too close to the bedtime, nebulizers, those things. Diuretics, if possible, take them in the morning. So those medications, and you have to obviously consult with your physician who's giving the medications before you decide to change or stop the medications. So exercise, how does it help? It again gives the brain your signals that you're physically active, mentally active, you're alert, daytime. If you do strenuous physical activity within 4 to 6 hours of bedtime, it is going to secrete cortisol, adrenaline, and the hormones are they're going to keep you up. So if you do exercise before 4 or 5 or before, like in the afternoon or early morning is the best. If you do that exercise, it will help to consolidate your sleep. People sleep better when they exercise on a regular basis. So the bedroom environment, American Academy of Pediatricians say that 50 years ago, most of the kids, they had 0 appliance, and now average kid has elementary to high school or college, they have 5 electrical appliances in their bedroom. It's a big problem. Most of the kids are sleep deprived. They're on 2 in the morning. Same is the problem with the elderly now, with retired. They have FaceTime, they have iPads, they have ebooks, and they're on all these electronics. So try to keep these electronics away for 1 or 2 hours before bedtime. Put them out not in the bedroom, in the living room. People have gotten into these habits, checking their emails, checking messages, going on social media when they wake up in the middle of the night, and then they can't go back to sleep. Lots of pets. 80% of people have pets in their bed. If possible, outside the bedroom. If not, outside the bed. So they should not be in bed disturbing or disrupting your sleep. I mentioned before, if you need a noise, you need a white noise machine. You don't want to keep the TV, audiobooks, or anything else running. You should have a good bedtime routine. What should you do? Just unwinding time. People say I unwind with electronics. Unfortunately, that's not the case, especially in the kids. The anxiety, depression is going up with these devices. So it makes them more anxious. So if you're on social media, you found somebody, I was not invited, the kids, common story, I was not invited to this party, and then whole night the kid cannot sleep and they get frustrated. Lots of things in the, with the social media or something which can disturb you and disrupt your sleep. So an hour before, 2 hours before, you should get rid of all these electronics. Old way is best way, paper books. Unwinding time, again, you do not want to pick up something which you cannot put down. No mystery novels, nothing like that you can't put down. Anything boring. Deep breathing, meditation, warm shower will bring your body temperature down, help you fall asleep. What helps sometimes is just writing down to-do list or your worries, so that you don't, if you do wake up in the middle of the night, we all wake up in the middle of the night, you just roll over, you go back to sleep, that's normal. But if you wake up and you just cannot get rid of that to-do list and you have mind racing, this will help your mind racing before going to bed. No heavy meals, but don't go to bed hungry that you cannot sleep because you're so hungry. If you're eat dinner early, then a small snack would help if you really, that's what's keeping you up. Again, I mentioned about that, not drinking water close to bedtime. In the middle of the night when you wake up, it's a common thing. People look at the clock and that makes them worry. So avoid looking at the clock or your phone in the middle of the night. One thing I want to mention, which is becoming more common, I have seen after pandemic, a lot of people, they have become like night owls. There is a genetic tendency, there is a natural shift of being a night person when we are teenagers. And the reason is social life is changing and the kids are getting growth spurt. In teenager, they have a lot of growth hormone secretion, they get a growth spurt, and they tend to sleep a lot. Unfortunately, the problem is that now they're staying up late and they're not having that time that they need adequate average 8 to 10 hours or 8 to 9 hours of sleep. They're sleeping in late. That is a normal shift. But when it goes to extremes with all these devices, all these things that we are doing, then it becomes a problem. If you're a night person, there's a genetic tendency as well. There is a gene that has been isolated, but also the environment. If your parents are night people, the kids are going to be night people. You're awake, your house is up, there is noise, there is light, there is activity. So the kids tend to stay up late. It is not a problem, but if the kids are going to be up at 2 a.m. on these devices, not able to fall asleep, they have to wake up at 7. So until 11 o'clock, they don't even know, what they're doing, where they are. It's like a sleep inertia. The peak time for somebody who's a night person, peak deep sleep and dream sleep time is between 7 to 9. If you have a regular bedtime, 8 or 9 or 10 o'clock, your peak deep sleep time or dream sleep time is between 4 to 6. So when you're trying to wake up kids, parents bring the kids, you cannot wake them up because they are going into deep sleep cycle at that time. It is very hard to wake them up. So one, they are going into deep sleep. Two, they're sleep deprived. If they're sleeping at 2 or whoever, it is very hard to wake up, to go to work, to go to school. So then it becomes a problem. There are treatments for it, but then it needs a little bit of discipline. It needs so there are treatment. There are things you can do to fix that sleep cycle. So again, this is also genetic. As we get older, after 40s and 60s, there is also a natural shift. Just like being night person is a natural shift for teenagers, there's a natural shift. As we get older, we become larks. We go to sleep earlier and earlier, we wake up earlier. There's a natural shift. When it becomes extreme and it starts interfering with your life, social life, or otherwise, then we can treat them. This is new thing, social jet lag. What it is basically on the weekends, Friday, Saturday, people stay up until 12, 1, 2. Saturday and Sunday, they are sleeping in also. Saturday and Sunday, they're sleeping in also. But they're waking up at 10 or 11. So they're going to bed at 2, 3. Again, teenagers, most of the other adults are also doing that. And then you sleep in until 10 or 11. So you do that on Friday, you do it on Saturday. And remember, you have a circadian rhythm, internal clock. The brain thinks you're traveling. For 2 days, when you do that, by Sunday, it has started shifting you to a new time zone. If you are extreme, the brain thinks you're in Asia, Europe. If it is mild, you're moved to California. So that's what the brain is going to do. It's going to adjust the time. Sunday, people get anxious. They want to sleep early because Monday they have to go to work. Sunday night, they cannot fall asleep because 2 nights they have slept at 2 or 3. Your melatonin is not going to be secreted. You're not going to fall asleep. You have insomnia. You get anxious. Monday morning, so you are up Sunday night, 1 or 2 again. You fall asleep at 2. You have to wake up at 7 or 8 to school for school or work. You feel horrible because you have gotten 4 hours of sleep. And you're on, let's put it that way, you're on California time and you woke up at New Jersey time. So you're jet lagged. You're going to feel bad for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Your brain says, okay, you're back in New Jersey. Let me adjust the time zone. Your brain adjusts the time zone. You start feeling better. By Wednesday, you feel better. And Thursday, Friday, here comes the weekend again. You go fly to California again. How extreme you do that, that is going to determine what is your bedtime and wake time. So I have seen 1 or 2 o'clock. I've seen kids at 4, 5 o'clock. They absolutely are missing college, missing school, missing high school. Now, when it starts interfering with your life, that is and it becomes a problem with your job. You can't wake up to do, you cannot function optimally, because not only are you sleep deprived now, you are jet lagged. So you're flying every weekend to California, coming back, and you're always in jet lag. So you get 2 days out of the week, you're feeling good. So that is a big problem, and you are having problems. You can see with the jet lag, you have decreased, memory, focus, concentration, feeling hungry at odd hours. You're not going to eat breakfast. You're not going to eat. And what do you do when you start doing shifting those activity? The brain says, okay, I have to be hungry at 2 in the morning. I do not feel hungry at 11 o'clock or 7 o'clock for breakfast. I'm not going to eat. So you're going to have a teenager who's going to eat at 2 in the morning and heading out and not eating anything. That just adds to the problem. So it's like leads to one thing, lead to another. If you're a frequent traveler, it's same thing happens to the frequent night shift workers. They are always in jet lag. The rapidly changing shifts is the worst shift you can do. So there are organizations and their workplaces, they actually ask the sleep physician, they're going to hire people, and they're going to, for the workers. Police force has gotten better. I see that they have the 2 week shifts now. Some of the places, when they have rapidly 2-3 nights and then shift, 2-3 nights and the shift, it is horrible. They cannot adjust. It's like they're going around the world all week, all the whole month, and then they cannot adjust. So you can see the night shift workers also, they are in constant, depending upon the kind of shift they are doing, depending upon what they're doing. So social jet lag itself for travelers and night shift workers, it's like a whole new problems it creates. Not only problems with insomnia, and problems staying asleep. When you come back, you're seeing light. You eat. The night shift workers are not guided. They come back, they eat, they drink coffee, they watch TV, and then they try to go to sleep. And by that time, your brain has figured out it's daytime, you're not going to sleep. Then they have poor sleep during the daytime. They get 4, 5, 6 hours of sleep, and then they go back to night shift again. So they're chronically sleep deprived. So there is high incidence of diabetes, blood pressure, cancer, breast cancer, coronary artery disease, melanomas in night shift workers. And the reason is, if it goes on unchecked for a long time, and they are not able to catch up on the sleep, then they develop all these medical problems. The melatonin, which is secreted by our body, there's more data coming out that it protects us from cancers also. The exogenous that we take over the counter does not. Prelim data, they have tried giving the exogenous melatonin to people, it does not stop, or it does not have the benefits that your own body's melatonin when it is secreted. So again, same for the shift workers, right? They have very poor sleep hygiene. They need to have all these things, but what they do is they're not guided. There's not a whole lot of information for them, and they do their own thing. Some people adjust, some people don't adjust very well with this. So a little bit about insomnia. It has become so prevalent with the pandemic, and people were at home, they had these devices, and the kids also, they were virtual. We had to use electronics, everything was virtual. So it had good things and bad things. Overall, I think it caused a lot of problems, especially in kids and adults also. Anxiety, depression, insomnia. So there is, like, not going into the details of it, that if you have insomnia or having problems falling asleep, staying asleep, cause needs to be figured out. What is the etiology? Is it a circadian rhythm disorder? Is it a poor sleep hygiene? Is it medication? So basically you have to find the cause and then treat. Overall, if there is a chronic insomnia, which is more than 3 months of sleep issues, you can do the CBT. This is the first line of therapy. So the reason I'm bringing it up is that lots of people are having problems with insomnia. CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, is the first line of therapy for insomnia, for anxiety, for depression, and it will help. So that, unfortunately, another problem is we do not have many therapists who are able, they're not available, they're just swamped. It's not available. So there are online programs, which is kind of the opposite. We don't want you to go online, but then we have no other support, just the online programs that we tell people to do. Some of the books which have been written by sleep therapists, and you can read, and they are actually helpful in understanding and doing some of the exercising and some of the things that you can improve your sleep. So that this is basically kind of a short overview or about sleep, so that you can understand and improve your sleep hygiene. Obviously, it is not complete. There are, the evaluation has to be done in detail of why some, like one individual is able to, cope with all this which happened, like for example, pandemic, why some teenager is able to sleep, some other is not able to sleep. So it's very individual. One thing is that we are all genetically different, and we are getting to know this more and more in every aspect of medicine. One therapy treatment does not work for everyone. Same person can be exposed to same environment, same things, but they will respond differently. One person would be a night person, the other person would be a morning person. There is genetic tendency. Also, there is tendency for people to how they respond. A person like some people you have heard saying, I get 5 hours of sleep and I function optimally. I need 8 hours of sleep. I need 10 hours of sleep. So there is a genetic difference in people, how they respond to sleep deprivation or loss of sleep. So everybody is different. So at some level, it has to be individualized. This is just an overview of how you can improve your sleep. So I'll take any questions.
Yeah. Let me see. We had a couple questions coming here. The first one is, what about menopause, hormones, and sleep?
Right. So I didn't go into delve into that. Yes, that plays a big role in women after menopause. Unfortunately, estrogen protects you from lots of things. Anxiety, depression, insomnia, sleep apnea. These are all associated with menopause. There are treatment, and since we have stopped giving the hormones because of the risk of breast cancer, it has, I'm seeing more and more patients also, or women in the clinic. It is also on the rise. Reason is we never saw it before because we were giving everybody hormones, and it would take every problem beautifully. And one person could develop insomnia, the other would develop sleepiness or sleep apnea. So it's the spectrum is all over the place. Again, the treatments which are available, for example, for insomnia or for sleep apnea, might not work for the same woman. One treatment would work, one medication would work like wonder, and then it would not even touch the insomnia in the other person. So again, it is a wide variability, but it is also becoming a big problem.
I have one more question here. Is there a difference between a Kindle e-reader versus a traditional tablet regarding the blue light? I know that they've changed things as they first came out. So is there a difference between a Kindle e-reader versus the traditional tablet regarding the blue light? Kindle using different front lighting and things like that.
So, the Kindle and all these devices, they say blue light. So there is a difference, but it's not only light falling into your eyes. The e-Kindle says, oh, it turns brown, it turns, like yellow, and then you have a blue light, you have blue light glasses now. The issue is not the reading. The issue is the stimulation of the brain and having some light still falling into your eyes, which is not natural light. It does affect your sleep. And some people who are sleep deprived, it would not affect. I forgot to mention, so on top of all that I discussed, circadian rhythm, this and that, and physical activity, mental activity, on top of all that is sleep deprivation. So if you're sleep deprived, you can drink coffee and have a tablet and people like loud noise around you, and you will still fall asleep. That's why you see people falling asleep while driving. So that trumps everything that we talked about. So that's a survival mechanism. The analogy I like to give is that your brain is like a computer. The more programs you have running, the longer it would take you to shut down. But if you run out of power, you're going to shut down no matter what. So all these things do interfere still.
Yes.
I don't have any trouble getting to sleep. When I wake up after about 3 hours, I can't get back to sleep. So I wondered if it would be sensible to take melatonin at that point rather than when I went to bed.
No, I would not. No.
The effects of melatonin last. I wouldn't want to wake up till.
So depends the strength, depends the formulation. Not advisable to take it in the middle of the night, not at all, because it is going to interfere with your circadian rhythm. So if you are, again, I would say find the cause, treat the cause. And if you cannot find the cause, cognitive behavioral therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy would work. So my answer is do not take it in the middle of the night. I would not advise at all in the middle of the night anytime. If you have to take it, if you're a night person, the only medical time that we use melatonin is for jet lag. And number two, when we are trying to shift somebody from night person to maybe like a regular bedtime wake up time. And also that is, you have to know what you're doing. Like I said, it can backfire. So if you're a night person, you're trying to shift your cycle, that's the only time you're going to use melatonin. Not in the middle of the night, I would not.
Yes.
So if you're saying that melatonin is enough to help you stay asleep, why is it recommended out there?
Who the question is who's recommending it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's on the shelves everywhere. It's, you know, I just recently bought.
Yeah. I know. So
I have to try it again because I literally take Benadryl to sleep and it's fine. Insomnia, which is like a for years.
right. So again, I keep going back to CBT is the first line of therapy now for insomnia, not even hypnotics or sleeping pills. Melatonin is, there are so many things over the counter. I wish I can take away the Afrin, I can take away the Benadryl, I can take away the melatonin off the shelf. But unfortunately, it's the FDA or somebody is a regulatory, more recently, it has caught more attention because there was poisoning in children with melatonin because of the adults which are taking. So there has been, so there is it is going to catch up attention. There might eventually be some regulation because lots of cases of melatonin poisoning during the pandemic was seen. The parents were taking the melatonin and the kids just used it. And so it has been brought to the attention. As far as medically, the only two indications is jet lag and when we are trying to shift somebody's circadian rhythm. Those are the only two medical.
So what form of CBT are you recommending?
Again, we are based on American Academy of Sleep Medicine. They're not recommending any CBT, anything at this time because they say the research is not shifts. Correct. Research is not insufficient, is not sufficient to leave a recommendation at this time. But there is ongoing research on it, the indirect and the medicated. So if you do want, you want to know what you're taking. And there is a lot of research. Actually, we do have THC receptors in the brain. And there is research going on. So just like we have Remeltion is a melatonin receptor medication, which is instead of the melatonin. Unfortunately, it is so expensive. So Remeltion is science research based, very specific for melatonin receptors in your brain. So that instead of the melatonin, THC, once they have enough in the medicated one, they're going to come up with recommendation, but it's like too prelim, the research to recommend anything. But like I said, you would run into a lot of people. If you have anxiety, if you have stress, lots of people say they sleep better with it. The reason is not it's causing the direct effects on the sleep. As far as we know right now, it does have sedative properties, but it takes care of the anxiety and helps with the insomnia.
Okay, so right now there really is a natural form of therapy. You're saying cognitive behavioral therapy.
CBT is the first line of therapy. If you go to any recommendation that this is the first line of therapy, this is research based. When you do CBT, its effect on insomnia lasts for a year. If I give you a sleeping medicine, that effect is going to last for 6 months. And again, find the cause. So I keep stressing that what people do is insomnia is a symptom. Insomnia is also associated with, there's a strong association with psychiatric disorders. PTSD, psychiatric disorder. So you have to treat the cause. This is a symptom.
CBT effective for those that are dealing with hormonal issues?
Yes, yes, yes. And there are medications which they have done studies on. So gabapentin, Prozac, and venlafaxine and Lexapro. These are the medications which they have done research. Problem in menopause is this vasomotor imbalance. If you want to say the hot flashes and the vasomotor symptoms is because of the imbalance of the hormones or neurotransmitters, which happens with the transition. Your estrogen receptor controls, there's something called thermoregulation in a part of the brain. So all those effects of brain, of estrogen on the brain, when they are withdrawn, then it causes all this imbalance. What you do is you replace or cause and effect whatever is the cause and effect by kind of similar medication that it mimics maybe estrogen effect. It's not it's not exactly the norepi, the epinephrine, dopamine. So people get worried about. So the Lexapro is approved, the venlafaxine, the gabapentin is also approved as insomnia now, and also for hot flashes, for insomnia in women, and for menopause. It causes anxiety, so you need to treat the anxiety with menopause. What's that? Oh, yeah. So these are some of the books. These are written by therapists. So these are Dement and Greg Jacobs. They have all done research on sleep or sleep medicine, and these are therapists. They have written these books.
I'm sorry. What can you expect from an overnight sleep study?
So, right. So a sleep study, again, you have to see the symptoms, right? So the sleep apnea, restless leg syndrome, narcolepsy. So those are specific sleep disorders that we do for sleep study. So one of the most common sleep disorders which can cause problems staying asleep is sleep apnea. So we do sleep study for sleep apnea. Insomnia, we don't do sleep study. It actually does not. There is another study that we do is called actigraphy. Unless there's a reason for us to think that you could have sleep apnea or a sleep disorder, that's when we do the sleep study. It is done. Home sleep testing is much more common now. We are doing it. In lab sleep testing, in lab would have a brain waves monitoring, heart monitoring, breathing monitoring, your oxygen flow and your oxygen from the fingers, your leg movement. So it's an extensive study looking for everything and every sleep disorder, but you have to have a reason to do it. Most common sleep apnea disorder that we are using, we are doing the home sleep testing, which has less monitors, 3 monitors, basically to see if you have sleep apnea. In women, insomnia can present, it can be a sign of sleep apnea. In men, it's usually sleepiness and tiredness. So if indicated in women, we do, in certain instances, we have to suspect something specific when we do sleep study for insomnia patients. Mostly it's for sleepiness and tiredness and for specific sleep disorders. Yes. Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, CBTI. Cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. We're doing CBT for a lot of things, right? CBT for nightmares, anxiety, OCD. So it's basically the concept is the same, right? This is the concept. So what you do is you it's done by therapists. CBTI is a separate, which is done by a separate therapist. Not every therapist does that. Cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. So the general principle is the same. Some of the things that I mentioned, that when you are lying in bed, you cannot fall asleep, you wake up and you get frustrated, and you basically slowly over time your brain develops this association of bedroom with insomnia. And then you start having, you go into these thoughts and then behaviors and emotions. Oh my God, bad night. Oh my God, I'm going to not be able to work. Oh my God, the sky is going to fall. Or whatever our emotions with bad things, it just adds up. And so as soon as you hit bed, you start having anxiety. And the more anxiety you have, the more you wake up. So that's part of that cognitive behavioral therapy. The therapist will give you tools to take care of those negative thoughts, replace those thoughts, and then change the emotions associated with it so that you don't get anxious and so that you don't wake up or have more frustration. It's kind of a vicious cycle which starts. So that's why I was telling you this, when it's called a conditioned arousal. And before that kicks in, you want to leave the bedroom, relax, come back, and do the same thing. So if it takes again and again over the years, if you have chronic insomnia for 10, 15 years or over the years, then it takes time for it to go away, that association. So that's part of the therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy. Yes.
I know you said one of your slides to avoid naps completely, but is there such thing as being a good, like, wanting to take a nap?
Right.
What's a good nap?
Okay. Good question. So, night people mostly, you would see they come back, they're exhausted because they're working with 4 hours of sleep. They come back at 4 or 5 o'clock or 3, 5 o'clock. They take 2, 3, 4 hours naps. Once you hit more than 1 hour, you go into deep sleep. And you're going to see people have sleep inertia or sleep drunkenness. It's very hard to wake yourself up from it. You can take power nap. Power nap should be less than 30 minutes, ideally 20 minutes with alarm. If you have to take it, that would give you a boost, and it will not interfere maybe at night your sleep, and it will also give you energy to go on. Yeah, so less than 20 minutes. So that's what we actually recommend for the narcoleptic patients because they have like a specific disease. But if you do have to take it, less than 20 minutes and not too late in the evening. All right.
Thank you so much. This was wonderful. If everybody can fill out this together, we can really love that sample. That would be wonderful. Thanks for coming out tonight.
All right. Thank you.